Hello crafty friends, this is card 23 in Full Deck Challenge 2. The prompt is Steampunk. I have die cut some steampunk themed items like these cogs just using a brown cardstock, and then I also have these steampunk themed cutouts that are from the Digital Collage Club. I will put a link to their website in the description box below. There's quite a few different items. I'm not sure yet what I'll be using, but I've printed out these 3 pages and I'll know I'll be using something from these. I'm going to start off by prepping my card. I'm going to add some tissue paper to the top. I'm adding this with some Mod Podge. You can also use craft glue or gel medium. I always prepare my cards like this as it is a good base to add any kind of color or other mixed media on top. As I press the tissue paper, I do move it around with my fingers to get a lot of wrinkles and creases. I want a lot of texture for this theme. I'm adding a layer of Mod Podge on the top of the tissue paper too to waterproof it and make it a bit firmer so it doesn't tear when I add wet medium. Once it's dried well, I'm going to tear off the excess. You could also use the scissors, but I want quite a grungy, rustic kind of look, so I'm just tearing mine. I'm now also going to add some grit paste. This is obviously optional. I love this grit paste. It is like a texture paste, but it has more particles inside, so it's a bit more chunky and leaves a really rough texture when you leave it down. And adding Oxide ink on top of this creates beautiful effects. This product is from Ranger. Once the grit paste is nice and dry, I'm going to add some ink. You could use any kind of color medium, watercolors, acrylic paints, gelato crayons, anything you have. I like working with Oxide inks. The 2 colors I'm working with today are called Vintage Photo and Rusty Hinge. I'm just putting drops directly onto the card, and then I'm spraying some water, and I'm also using a wet paintbrush to help to move the color along. You don't want it even, you want it to be here and there and everywhere. You don't want the full surface covered. You want lighter bits and darker bits in contrast. So just move the card around and let the ink or color flow in the direction that it wants. You can help it along, but do try to let it do its own thing. I'm wanting it a little bit darker, so I'm using my Brusho powders in the color dark brown and sprinkling a little bit of that just to add a bit of a darker hue. It's never too late to join in the Full Deck Challenge. We're currently on deck 2, but you can also start on deck 1 at any time. Please also join my group on Facebook. Just search the Full Deck Challenge group. I will link below in the description the playlists to both decks. I'm just going to freeze the screen quickly so you can see all the beautiful textures that have been created on the card. I'm going to add some metallic wax just for some luster. This is the color Antique Gold. I just rub a little bit on my finger, then rub it over some areas of the card. My background is now finished. I'm quite happy with that, and I'm going to start adding my elements. I'm not sure yet where everything is going to go. I'm going to move them around a bit and just see the best placement and try and balance everything so it has a good flow. I find sometimes when placing elements that it can be a really quick process and you can place things down and they balance and look pleasing to the eye straight away. Other times it can take up to 30 minutes, even to an hour, moving things around, adding, taking away until you're happy with the composition. Try not to stress too much. Do try to enjoy the process, and I think it's a great way to learn about composition and how to make things balance. I also have this clock face. This is actually from a cardstock, a scrapbook paper that I had. I'm not sure of the name. It was just a page that I had bought a long time ago, but I love the little clock face. I'm also going to use this number 8 from the Digital Collage printout. I wanted to use multiple numbers, but I think it'll be a little bit too much. So I'm just going to start with 1, and I'm using the 8 because it's quite a full number and quite a good focal point. I really love this eye and I want to use it as the second focal point. My daughter was standing with me when I was cutting this out and she says, please don't put the eye. It looks terrible and spooky, but I really, really like it. I think it's very grungy and very steampunk, so I'm going to add it. I want some metallic finishes, which I think are very steampunk. So I'm going to use some of my die cuts that I have cut out, and I'm going to add this metallic gold acrylic paint. It's a beautiful metallic paint, but it is a little bit transparent. I'm going to have to put a couple of layers on this card just to get it to be looking like metal. I'm liking the placement of everything, so I'm going to start gluing down. I'm first going to add a little bit of gold leaf underneath one side just to help the color pop a little bit, because it's very brown on brown on brown. I think a little bit of this gold in the under layer will help lift that a little bit. I'm going to use clear craft glue to add my elements down, and as you can see, some of my elements are actually stuck behind the card, and I do this on purpose as I like things to be quite dimensional and I like things popping out the back. So I'm going to go ahead and stick down my elements. Using a liquid glue like this I think is best, because you can always have time to move things around if they aren't quite in the right place. I would really love if you subscribed to my channel. I have junk journals, art journaling, and this of course is the home of the Full Deck Challenge. When you subscribe, don't forget to hit the little bell so you're notified every time I upload new content. The clear glue that I'm using, the make is Tombow Mono Liquid Glue. It's one of my favorites to use. I'm not affiliated with them or collaborating with them at all. It's just a glue that I really enjoy using. Mine is actually nearly finished and I need to get a new one. It's a little on the pricey side, but it does last really, really long. Why don't you tell me in the comments below what is your favorite glue when you're crafting? With the sweat glue, it's great because I'm going to now move the back element just down a bit. I'm thinking it's too high up, so I can just move it down easily. I'm now going to add my little gold compass needles. I'm not quite sure what they are. I'm going to put one facing one way and one the other way. I'm feeling the whole composition is a little top heavy, so I want to bring an element down at the bottom just to balance it out. So I'm using one of the bigger elements that I'm going to let peep out just slightly from the bottom of the card. I think this will create good balance. At this point, I thought I was finished, but as I was packing up, I found some copper embossing powder that I totally forgot I had. I've never actually used it before, and I thought it'll be perfect for this project. So I'm not quite finished yet. I'm going to add a few copper embossed elements. How amazing does that look? Very metallic-y. I wish I'd found this embossing powder before I glued everything down. I would have made a few more of the cogs maybe a bit more metallic, but that's okay. I can do that going forward. Now I'm going to stick this down, and then I think I'm going to need one more to balance that out somewhere on the right hand side. Well, I'm very happy the way this turned out. Let me pull this up to the camera so you can have a closer look at the detail, the beautiful metallic finishes, and the texture from the grit paste underneath. I really hope you enjoyed this video and were inspired to create your own, and hopefully also inspired to join in the Full Deck Challenge. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.